Right, so this isn't our normal content. In fact, this will probably be the first and last time we ever do an iceberg video. It just so happens that, well, I'm from the RGV, and I was scrolling on Facebook the other day, and yes, I do have Facebook. I am old. My white hair, as you can see. I do use Instagram. I'm not that old. That said, yeah, I saw this iceberg from the RGV, and I thought it'd be fun to do some research and do a video covering something that I don't think has been covered. Yeah, also just a heads up, there are certain things on this iceberg I couldn't cover due to personal reasons. I can't get into it. That said, yeah, hope you enjoy, and let's begin. Number 1, Downtown Chainsaw Man. Overall, just a douchebag who brandished a chainsaw at a Black Lives Matter protest in downtown McAllen. Yes, charges were pressed. Tunnels at the border. Tunnels have been found under multiple buildings seemingly years after their last use. Use has varied from drug smuggling to people alleging that Al Capone used those tunnels to smuggle moonshine. I'm not sure if that last one is, well, true or has any real basis, but it was on a historical website, so I'm including it in this. McAllen City Hall. McAllen City Hall is an important part of residential life, from paying tickets to engaging in local politics, at city commission meetings, or getting married. But the building has a dark history that roots back to the early 20th century. McAllen City Hall was once a primary site of McAllen's only hospital at the time, the McAllen Municipal Hospital. The building was completed back in 1928 and underwent several expansions until it was demolished to make room for the new McAllen City Hall. It is believed to host the spirits of those who passed in the hospital that haunt it to this very day. Level 2, Panama Unit. Have you ever seen The Shield and think that that show was completely fictional? Well, not here. In Hidalgo County, there was supposed to be a specialized task force called the Panama Unit. This team of law enforcement officers was supposed to be an elite unit to take down drug dealers. Instead, they ended up busting dealers, stealing the drugs, and either reselling them to another dealer or selling it back to the initial dealer themselves. Along with planting evidence, prostitution, and other factors, this disgraced unit was eventually disbanded and ended up with the arrest of all 9 members getting jail time. Queen Isabel Causeway Crash. In the early morning of September 15th, 2001, 4 loaded barges crashed into one of Queen Isabel Causeway's supporting columns. The collision caused 2 large spans to fall into the water, leaving a 160-foot gap in the roadway. The collapsed sections were next to the highest point of the causeway, making it difficult for approaching drivers to notice. 8 people were killed as their cars fell 85 feet into the water. 5 vehicles were recovered from the water, along with 3 survivors. The collapse had a significant economic impact on the region since the causeway was the only road connecting to the island. State officials brought in ferries to temporarily carry cars across the Laguna Madre. News and discussion of the collapse was mostly confined to local and regional sources due to the September 11th attacks, 4 days earlier. The causeway was reopened back on November 21st, 2021. Several safety features were added to the structure, the support columns were reinforced, and the $900,000 fiber optic collapse warning system was installed. 2 years after the opening, the causeway was renamed to the Queen Isabel Memorial Bridge to honor the victims of the accident. A report from the U.S. Coast Guard assigned blame to the captain of the barge. Red Room. Now, the Red Room in the RGV, or the Rio Grande Valley, refers to a location associated with the Lady in Red legend, a story told to students and community members about a haunted room potentially on the UT RGV Brownsville campus. While there isn't a specific physical Red Room, the term generally refers to an area haunted by this ghostly figure. The exact location isn't definitively confirmed, but it is part of local folklore and urban legends. San Juan Hotel. The most famous story of the San Juan Hotel is that of a woman who's been sighted on the second floor story window wailing and crying for help. The legend is a bit vague, but Ghost Stories of the Rio Grande Valley by David Bowles gives a detailed telling of the story and legend holds, but here's a very quick summary. Tom Merrifield was a resident at the San Juan Hotel for about 11 years. He was seen as a hero and honored by local law enforcement. However, oral histories state that Tom would attack Mexican Americans during his stay at the hotel. One day, a man checked into the hotel wanting to speak to Tom Mayfield and learn about his cruel ways. After many conversations, the man hired a local sex worker, lured her into his hotel, and murdered her. We may never know what Tom Mayfield or the man spoke about, but led us to ask this. Were the ghostly tales of Tom, the mystery man, and the murdered woman a mechanism to underestimate the horrific events that occurred in this local community. Piracy at local Falcon Dam. Piracy on Falcon Lake refers to an increase in crime at the border between the United States and Mexico on Falcon Lake. The lake is about a 60-mile long reservoir of the Rio Grande Valley, as it was constructed in 1954 and is known as a drug smuggling route. The turf war between the drug cartels for control of the lake began in March 2010 and led to a series of armed robberies and shooting incidents. All the attacks were credited to the Los Zetas cartel and occurred primarily on the Mexican side of the reservoir, but within sight of the Texas coast. So most pirates operating fleets of small vehicles. While the events have holistically been referred to as piracy, all the waters on Falcon Lake are considered either US or Mexican territory waters. Therefore, the crime is not technically piracy under Article 101 of the UN Convention on Law of the Sea. Just, a little interesting fact for y'all. Level 3. La Casa de Calores. La Casa de Calores in Brownsville. I've heard a lot of stories about, but the only one I remember is that a family lived there and each room was painted a different color by the father. He then ended up murdering his wife and kids. There's no exact address, and it may be a complete hoax, but it is a local story. PSJ High School's Fred. The old PSJA auditorium. It is said that in the old auditorium, years ago, a janitor or a tech was putting up a light on top and he fell and died. Till this day, if you look up at the light, it has never been replaced. The story is that if you happen to do a production there, you have to put his name in the program, because if not, he will do something to ruin the show, either drop the set or something else horrid will happen. That was from an anonymous source. From someone else, apparently during the production of Aladdin, the stage manager forgot to mention his name on the program, and a fire broke out on the stage during a live performance. Alton bus crash families. The Alton bus crash is something we'll get down the road, but this entry is about the aftermath. There was a lawsuit and an overall payout of $250 million to the families and victims of a bus crash. However, once the money started coming in, a series of accidents and unfortunate events struck the community. People robbed each other, stole, and disappeared. The money was seen as a curse as it divided the community and the family themselves. Westago Cult House. It's believed that it's the headquarters of the Outer Dimension Forces. They're definitely a religious organization, i.e. a cult, with some pretty wild theories. No one has seen the old man who technically owns the house in a very long time. Some believed he may have died a long time ago. They have a website, and if it piques your interest, you can go and Google Outer Dimension Forces, and it should bring you to the home. It should also be titled the Armageddon Time Arc Base of Operations, something along those lines. And if you happen to live in the valley, they're well known to sell honey at some local farmers markets. Level 4, Irene Garza. Alright, starting to get dark here. Irene Garza, born November 15th, 1934, passed away sometime in late April 1960. She was an American school teacher and a beauty queen contestant whose death was subject to investigation for several decades. She was last seen alive on April 16th, 1960, when she went to confession at a church in McAllen, Texas. She was reported missing the following morning. Following the largest volunteer search to date in the Rio Grande Valley, Garza's body was discovered in a canal on April 21st. An autopsy concluded that she had been sexually assaulted before being killed. The cause of death was suffocation. John Feet, a Catholic priest who had heard Garza's last confession, was identified as the only suspect in her death. Two clergymen, Dale Tacheni and Jose O'Brien, came forward to authorities in 2002 to report that Feet had confessed to Garza's murder shortly after the crime. He has since left the priesthood and married and had a family. For many years, the district attorney in Hidalgo County considered the evidence against Feet too weak to secure conviction. He brought the case before a grand jury in 2004, but Feet, Tech, and O'Brien were now subpoenaed, and the jury did not indict Feet. The investigation into Garza's death was renewed in 2015 after a new district attorney took office in Hidalgo County. In February 2016, the 83-year-old Feet was arrested in Arizona in connection to Garza's death. He was later extradited to Texas. His murder trial began in November 2017. On December 7th, 2017, Feet was found guilty of murder, and the next day he was sentenced to life imprisonment. He died in 2020, February. Roma's Burger King. So this Burger King was built right next to the town cemetery. After it was fenced in, many common folk could not afford to bury their dead in the new official cemetery, so it is widely believed that they would sometimes bury them in the adjacent fields, the Burger King sitting on those adjacent fields. From what I've heard, there have been all kinds of things seen and done by various employees over the last 9 years at that Burger King. The Lady in White. In McAllen, there's a street called Bicentennial that runs north to south. Now, today, it runs from the highway all the way to Monte Cristo, but at the time, it had stopped at Nolana. As of right now, there have been various stories on sightings of a woman in white near a stream on Bicentennial. Reports generally have the same description of a woman in white with long black hair floating off the ground and approaching cars that are stopped at the street. Although nothing has ever been corroborated, nor have there ever been any pictures. Death at the Schlitterbahn Resort. Okay, on March 6th, 2013, Nico Benavides, a 20-year-old seasonal employee at Schlitterbahn South Padre Island Water Park, was fatally injured and a maintenance supervisor seriously injured when the wave generating machine that they were inside of for maintenance was activated, crushing them between the gate and the machine and the wall. Benavides was left on life support for organ donation and later died from his injuries on March 11th. OSHA investigated and fined Schlitterbahn $96,000 for 6 safety violations related to the fatal incident. Okay. Level 5. Alton bus crash. A bus crash occurred on September 21st, 1989. Resulted in the deaths of 21 junior and senior high school students by drowning or causes related to asphyxiation. A bottling truck collided with the school bus, causing the bus to enter a man-made lake pit filled with water. The driver of the truck was acquitted of negligent homicide charges. The payoffs from the lawsuit compensated for the deaths of the students caused a large division in the Alton community. A local middle school was subsequently named in honor of the deceased. The Dawn of Vampire. This one's gonna get a little heavy, folks. Pablo Lucio Vasquez, born August 11th, 1977 till April 6, 2016, was an American man convicted of the murder of a 12-year-old boy and executed by the state of Texas. The murder occurred in Donna, Texas, in the state's Rio Grande Valley region. Due to the way he murdered his victim, Vasquez was called the Vampire Killer. Now, some background. David Godinez, the victim, was a 12-year-old boy who lived with his sister's residence within Alamo, Texas. As for the murder, it took place on April 18th in 1998. Pablo Vasquez went to a party in Donna, Texas, with his 15-year-old cousin, Andres Rafael Andy Japa. During the party, he became intoxicated with cocaine and alcohol. At the party, he met Cardenas, the 12-year-old boy, and while walking home from the party, Vasquez hit Cardenas over the head with a pipe and cut the boy's throat. He and Chapa took the body to the field across a 4-lane street, leaving a trail of blood. At the field, Vasquez robbed the body of valuables, cutting off one arm, severing a portion of another arm, removing skin from Cardenas' back, scalping the body, and drinking his blood, before placing the body underneath a piece of aluminum. Vasquez tried to sever the body's head with a shovel but failed. 3 relatives of Vasquez and Chapa had attempted to conceal the crime. Vasquez was eventually arrested in Conroe, Texas after an anonymous tip. When questioned by police, he said that the devil told him to remove Cardenas' head. Vasquez was eventually convicted and sentenced to death. Chapa received a 35-year sentence after pleading guilty. The relatives that assisted the perpetrators received fines and/or probation, and one was deported back to Guatemala. Vasquez's lawyers unsuccessfully argued that he should not be executed due to him being mentally ill. Vasquez did apologize to the victims' families before he was executed by lethal injection in Huntsville, Texas, at the Huntsville unit, on April 6th in 2016. At the time of his execution, Vasquez was 38 years old, having spent 18 years on Texas's death row. Number 6. Edinburgh Massacre. In 2003, a group of men broke into 2 homes, ransacking them, killing 6 men. 4 of them being 2 sets of brothers. One man being killed very much near his mother, who was adamant that one of the shooters was wearing police gear. The men were eventually caught and sentenced for their crimes, although there are appeals going on at this very moment. It is not known what exactly caused the ransacking and the shooting, however it's widely believed to have been gang-affiliated. The Big Bird. The term the Big Bird in this particular instance does not refer to a big, 6-foot bird, lovable from Sesame Street, but rather a mysterious creature that has been sighted several times in the Rio Grande Valley in the deep south of Texas, around or during the mid-1970s. It's widely believed that this creature would be witnessed and then something terrible would happen, much like the Mothman back in Massachusetts. The first sighting of the creature, known as Bigfoot, occurred sometime around January 7th, 1976, by a policeman in San Benito, Texas. The 2000 nightclub. 2000 nightclub was a nightclub in McAllen, Texas, known for the local legend of the devil dancing there. The legend, often referred to as the devil at the disco or dancing with the devil, tells of a young woman who defies her parents and goes to a club, where she dances with a mysterious man who later reveals himself to be the devil. According to legend, the handsome stranger dressed in black pulls up to the club in a black Lincoln Continental. The man was not a club regular. Nevada has said he'd never seen the man before, nor had anyone else. A man in black sweeps a young woman off the dance floor with an unmatching gaze. The smell of sulfur trailed the unknown man, Nevada said. As he caught a whiff, as he sat at the DJ booth, it burned his nose. Suddenly, screams overcame the loud music and conversation. Bouncers rushed from all angles toward the dance floor, Nevada said. They found the lady alone. Skin on her neck and arms, places where a fainted stranger would have been holding her, burned. The man disappeared into the crowd, but the bouncer at the front door says he never saw him leave. Number 7. The Devil's Lagoon refers to a spot in San Perlita. Supposedly a spot of an orphanage, it has mixed stories. Supposedly, it was an all-black orphanage in the early 1900s, allegedly burning down with 30 kids perishing except for one survivor, who made an interview a while back confirming the legitimacy of the legend. There's also a cemetery there to corroborate the story of the supposed deaths, but the graves are older and don't match up with the fire. Camp Lulu. Camp Lula Sam's, located within Brownsville, Texas, is a place with a long storied history. While it may have been a popular destination for summer camps and retreats for many years, it is also rumored to be haunted. The camp was originally founded in the 1920s by Lula Sams, a local philanthropist who wanted to provide a place for children to escape the city and enjoy the great outdoors. Over the years, the camp had undergone many changes and renovations, but it has always remained a beloved and cherished place for children and adults alike. However, in recent years, there have been rumors circulating about strange and unexplainable occurrences at the camp. Some say that they have heard strange noises, seen ghostly apparitions at night, while others claim to have experienced strange and unsettling feelings while staying at the camp. One of the most well-known stories about the haunted Camp Lula Sam's is that of a young girl who drowned in the camp swimming pool many years ago. Some say that her ghost still haunts the pool area, and that people have reported seeing her ghostly form floating in the water or standing at the edge of the pool. Other stories include accounts of ghostly figures appearing at the camp dining hall and other buildings, as well as strange noises and movements in the woods surrounding the camp. Some people have even reported feeling being watched or followed by unseen entities. South Padre Island, Jane Doe. The decomposed remains of an Hispanic woman were found on the beach, scavenged by coyotes, on October 10, 2012, in South Padre Island, Cameron County, Texas. The victim's body was likely exposed due to the changes of water levels on the beach. The woman had been dead for 1 or more weeks before the discovery. The sand above her head had been covered with lime, possibly to speed the decomposition or plant growth, likely a way to prevent the body from being found or identified. The young lady has not been identified to this day. Mark Kilroy. On March 17, 1989, University of Texas Austin student Mark James Kilroy was kidnapped in Matamoros while vacationing during spring break. He was taken by his abductors to a ranch where he was tortured and sodomized for hours before being murdered in a human sacrificial ritual. Kilroy was killed with a machete blow and then had his brain removed and boiled in a pot. His killers then inserted a wire through his spinal column, amputated his legs at the knee, and buried him at the ranch along with 14 other people who had been killed before him. Adolfo Constantinosa, the leader of the cult, told his followers that human sacrifices granted them immunity from law enforcement for the drug smuggling operations. The killing drew worldwide media attention and initiated an international police manhunt because of the unusual circumstances of this crime. So that was the RGV Iceberg video. If you want to see more stuff like that, let us know down below. We'd greatly appreciate it. We're always taking suggestions as we are trying to grow our content library instead of just movies and video games. We're trying to include Let's Plays, Let's Tries, video essays, and other things like that. If you have any ideas, let us know, and we do take requests. And yeah, we'll be seeing y'all.